Hello guys, and welcome to the first video in this plugin tutorial series. In this series we're basically just going to be creating loads of random plugins. So hopefully if you have a plugin idea you'd like to see made, then drop it in the comments and I'd love to make it for you. I'm going to be making the plugin live, so I haven't made the plugin beforehand, so I have a brief idea in my head as to how I'm going to do it, but I have no concrete plan, and hopefully this will give you an insight into how plugins are actually made and not just YouTube tutorials where people copy and code and then explain it and you don't really get the full process. If I get stuck, I'll probably just pause the video, but hopefully that isn't going to happen, and if it's too long, I'll split it into multiple pieces. So let's get started. We're making a random teleportation plugin today. So that's really simple. If I type /RTP, I want to be teleported to a random location. So let's start off straight away by saying get command rtp.setExecutor new random teleport command. I'm going to use IntelliJ alt enter to create my class. And I'm also going to use it to implement my methods. Now, straight away after I do this, I go into the config or the plugin. I created a config class off screen and I just set up a base plugin. So after I create every plugin or every command, I go in here and I straight away define it. We'll leave the description, doesn't really matter for now. I straight away define it in the plugin.yml because it's really easy to forget to do that. And then I change this to return true. Obviously, we only want a player to be able to do this, so if sender instance of player, we can just return. A lot of people send messages to the console like only a player can execute this, but if you're doing such RTP in a console, like you'd have to be pretty silly, and I don't think it needs a message to clarify why that won't work. So then we're going to cast the sender to a player, and then we basically just want to teleport them. So a lot of people, again, you would see people doing this in this random teleport command class, but that completely breaks the single responsibility fundamentals of programming. Each class should have their own specific reason for existing, and it should handle one piece of logic as best as possible. Obviously, that doesn't work a lot of the time, and you'll have more than one piece of logic in that class, but as much as possible, separate your code. So I'm going to create a random teleport manager. And it's going to have a class public void random teleport player. And this is simply going to take a player. So how are we going to access this? Again, some people might make it static. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to create a instance of it in the main class. And then I'm going to instantiate it. More than likely it's going to need a reference to the main class, so pretty much every class I make, I automatically add it. A lot of the reasons is because I use my main class as an access point, right? So if ever I want to access a different class, I do it through my main class, through a getter. So I do public random teleport manager get random teleport manager. And if all my classes have access to this main class, then I know that I can also access any other class. So it's kind of a handy way of doing it, and it avoids static abuse, which I quite like. So random teleport player. So we basically just need to randomly pick a X and Z coordinate and teleport them there with a delay. Okay, so let's just go here. We can say, oh, I actually didn't add a reference to the main class. There is a nice library called Lombok, which allows you to basically auto do this. So you would add a tag like all args required constructor or something like that. So it's a really useful library, so I recommend that you Google that. I'm not using it here because, well, if you're only getting into plugin development, you're probably not going to use it before, and I think it kind of complicates things at the start, even though as you go on, it makes things a lot simpler. So I'm going to say plugin.get random teleport manager .random teleport player, and then we're going to take the player. So we want to do a few things. So for starters, we could send them a message. So whenever I send people a message, this is something I got from another YouTuber, and I'll link him down in the description. I mean, it's It's hardly a revolutionary idea, but it's kind of just handy. So if I want to send a message to a player, I'm going to do it like this. Obviously, it's going to take the string. So usually when you send a message to a player, you have to do like player.sendMessage, then put in the chat color. But this is a nice way of doing it. So I can do player.sendMessage, then do chat color.translate alternate color codes at, and then the string. Which if you didn't know, if I type something like @hey or player.sendMessage @hey, this will translate it so it actually gets put into color. So instead of saying player.sendMessage chatcolor.red or whatever, I can just do colorizer.sendMessage player at a teleporting in. And then in my config.yml, I'm going to add teleport wait time, 3 seconds. We probably want a radius X and a radius Z also. This is basically how far in the plus or minus we want to be able to do teleport. That's about wrong. Okay, so obviously we need to be able to basically type wait time. Again, there's loads of different ways you can handle fetching these. Oh, one second, I need to cough. There's loads of different ways you can handle fetching these values from the config, right? You could create a static config class, which allows you to do it. However, because I only have 3, I think it's perfectly fine to just say int wait time, then take a double radius X, a double radius Y, and then just initialize them here. So we're going to say wait time is equal to plugin.getConfig.getInt, what should we call it? Teleport wait time. Then we can say radius X is equal to plugin.getConfig.get double radius X, and I actually call that Y, it should be Z. And just copy paste that, radius Y, radius Y. Okay, so perfect. So we obviously want a delay here, and that is going to be done obviously using a bucket runnable. So if you've never used a bucket runnable before, I'll link a video in the description which explains it. So I'm not going to explain it too much, so I'm just going to say new bucket runnable. Obviously it takes an add override, public void run, and then we're going to say run task later. It takes a plugin and a delay, which is going to be wait time. Okay, so when this is run later, we want to, actually I'll just explain that again really quickly, I didn't really. So let's actually go over what we have. So we have a command RTP, which sets a random teleport command class as its executor. This checks it's a player, and if it's a player, it gets the teleport manager and says, okay, teleport this player. This sends it a message saying teleporting in, then it creates a new bucket runnable, which allows this line of code to be executed after whatever time we specify in the config. Now, we want to get a random location. So location is equal to get random location. How handy it would be for this plugin if this was already a function. We need to, oh no. So we need to create a function called get random location. But you'll notice if I do private location, get random location, oh, we can access this. I actually thought we needed this stop, but I guess not. So we obviously need a location. We are also going to take a player, and I'll tell you why in a minute. So it's passing the player. So a location requires a world, an X, a Y, and a Z. So our world is going to be player.getLocation.getWorld. This is basically we want to teleport the player in the world it's in. Like if he's in the nether, we don't want it to be teleporting him back to the overworld. So we need a random X. And there's loads of local, loads of different ways to generate random numbers. But if you do local thread local random .current .next int origin bound, so minus radius x required double. Oh, it takes an int, obviously, because I tagged, so we take next double. You know, looking at it, it's probably easier to make this an int, because there's no real reason to have it as a double because we don't want to be teleporting people to like half blocks. Like that's not really necessary, and no one's going to say like 5,000.5. So in my opinion, that's fine. So we're going to say next int. So this is just a really handy and easy way to generate random numbers in a bound. So it's thread local random.current.next int base your min and your max. Right, simple way to put it. Then we're going to say random z is minus radius z. And now you're thinking, how do we get the y value? We obviously don't want a random y value, because if we say picked 40, that might be in a cave, and that actually might work out fine. But if it's not in a cave, we're going to get suffocated. So the int random y is going to be world.getHighestBlockAt, which is a really useful function, which basically just obviously gets the highest block at a given location. And we can say get highest block y at. Okay, good. That does reproduce an int. For some reason I thought it was actually going to give back the block itself, which would not have been good. Okay, so now that we have that, we can say player. We return a new location. World random x random y random z. Yeah. So here we have a really simple way to generate random locations. And now we want to say player.teleport location player.send colorizer.send message player teleport success. Okay, so if we run through this one last time, so as you can see, even though you might think random teleportation plugins are complicated, this is kind of it. We're going to implement a bit more logic, but this is practically all there is to it. So we have a random teleport manager. Whenever we execute the RTP command, we check if we're a player, and if we are, we randomly teleport the player. How do we do this? We generate a random location by getting an integer x between insum radius and integer z insum radius, the highest block, the highest y block at that xz coordinate, and then when we return that location, we simply teleport the player to that location and then send them a message, all after the delay. Now we're going to get an error if we try doing this because we haven't saved the config. You always have to do this when you're using configs. There's loads of different ways to save a config, but this is my preferred way. So I'm going to stop the recording here. I'm going to build my plugin and put it in my server, and hopefully everything works. I just realized I had radius y here and radius z in the config, so that obviously is going to throw a null pointer exception. So I'll just show you for the sake of showing you. If I go into the plugin and type /RTP, it does say teleporting in 3, but as you can see, we get a null pointer exception at line 42 because radius z is going to be undefined. So that is my bad. Radius z. There you go, the simple mistakes you make. So I'm going to rebuild the plugin and hopefully that all works now. Okay, so we are back on Minecraft. Usually when I debug plugins, I have my console open up big and my game open up small. This just lets me see any errors. So if I type /RTP, teleported in 3, and whoa, we get teleported really quickly. So we got teleported into water, which, you know, isn't the worst, I guess. So if we do it again, I just want to show you that it is picking new locations for us each time, and we are getting teleported to the very top. So we have a few issues. Why is the I should say wait time. Why is the delay not 3 seconds, even though we put 3 in? So I'm not sure if it tells you in run task later. Delay, the ticks to wait before running the task. It obviously takes ticks and not seconds. So if you didn't know, there's 20 ticks in a second. So we're basically saying wait 3/20 seconds. So to fix that, we multiplied by 20, and that will now give us 3 seconds. Okay, so that's that issue fixed. So one of the main, well, I wouldn't say main, but practically every random teleport plugin has a function or has a functionality that if a player moves the teleportation gets cancelled. So we're going to create a list of players waiting for teleport, and we're going to say that's equal to a new array list. So if this is successful, right, so if this works, we're going to say, well, I don't even know what we call the list. Players waiting for teleport dot remove player. And I've actually changed my mind. I want to use UUIDs. That's a good habit to get into. You should pretty much always store collections of players as UUIDs, as it avoids null pointer errors if the player leaves the server. Okay, so if we want to cancel this when a player moves, right, I suppose there's a few ways we could do it. The fact that we're delaying this means that it's quite difficult to so it's kind of roundabout. There's a kind of roundabout way of doing this. So I'm going to create a class called I realized that last two sentences made literally no sense. I was basically just going around in my head trying to figure out the nicest way to do it. You may notice that if you try implement listener, a lot of the time it doesn't show up in autocomplete, so you end up having to implement it manually. So very strange. So we're going to say public void on player move event E, and then we're also going to take a reference to the main class in the constructor. Okay, so if the player moves, firstly we want to check, is the player that moved about to be is waiting for a teleport. So we can create a function called public boolean player waiting for a teleport. Player, and just return players waiting for teleport that contains player.getUnique ID. So this just checks, is the player waiting for a teleport? If they are, so if plugin dot get random teleportation manager dot players ooh, I made that public. That should be private. You should never have these fields public, and I just realized I didn't make them private straight away, which is very poor by my standards, by anyone's standards. You should never automatically never really any of your variables should be public. They shouldn't need to be public. Dot player waiting for a teleport player. So if they are waiting for a teleport, we're going to say e.getPlayer, or we can say just colorizer dot send message e.getPlayer. You moved too soon. Teleport cancelled. Okay, and then we're going to say plugin.getRandomTeleportManager.cancel a teleport e.getPlayer. I'm going to automatically implement that function, and to do this, we're just going to say player is waiting for a teleport.remove player.getUniqueID. Right, so you may be thinking, well, this is going to run anyway because we haven't implemented any logic that's going to stop this running. But straight away we're going to check if player is waiting for a teleport that contains player.getUniqueID. So if it doesn't contain it, we can just return. And because this only gets run once, it's not a repeating task, we don't have to cancel it. It might be a good idea to cancel it anyway. Okay, so instead of like breaking the bucket runnable, as in the minute a player moves, we completely cancel the bucket runnable. It complicates the logic more, right? So a lot of people will be like, okay, so how do I do that? A lot of the times the solution to your problem is not what you're looking for. A lot of time roundabout solutions are the way to go. The simplest solution is usually the best one, as they say. So if a player moves and they're waiting for a teleport, we say you moved too soon, teleport cancelled, cancel the teleport, which just removes the player from a map. And in this bucket runnable, if they're not in the map, then we cancel the teleport. Hopefully that makes sense. That kind of just sounded like a jumble of words in my head. Hopefully it came out right. So obviously we need to register the player move listener. .register events, new player move listener. This and this. I feel like I wanted to do something there. Did I forget to do something? Yes. So a player move listener, the issue with this is this is going to fire even if we change where we're looking. So we're going to say if e.get2 is not equal to e.getFrom, or e.get is, yeah, sorry, is equal to, okay, so we're saying if e.get2, is that not how you compare? No, that's fine. That's never going to produce a null pointer, or it shouldn't anyway. I don't see how it would. Yeah, I don't know. IntelliJ is being stupid. So this checks, is the location we're going to equal the location we're coming from? That is, we actually haven't moved. We're looking around. We're changing our yawn or pitch, because a location contains yawn or pitch, and the player move event detects a change in that. So I'm just going to start building my plugin. So essentially what we've done here is we've said if a player moves while they're waiting for a teleport, remove them. Remove them from the field waiting for a teleport, and that is that. I just realized when a player actually types /RTP, we never add them to the list, which is obviously not ideal. So we need to say public void add player to list to teleport list. Player, random teleport, what's it called? Players waiting for teleport, dot add player.getUnique ID. Then in the teleport command, we can just say, or here is probably the best way to do it. I just realized I made that function for absolutely no reason whatsoever. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. When we execute the command, we add the player to a list of players waiting for a teleport. If that player moves, it gets removed from the list and their teleport is cancelled. So I'm going to go into game and hopefully that all works. Okay, so we're back, and I realized I made a really, really silly mistake. So if you remember previously, I had written if e.get2 equals e.getFrom return. Obviously, this doesn't make sense. I'm comparing the locations, right? This doesn't fix our issue, right? These locations still contain the yawn pitch. So I need to say if e.getBlock, right? So what we're checking here is if the block we're going to equals the block we're coming from, return. So basically we're checking if we haven't changed block. Sorry for that confusion. So instead of checking if our player has changed locations, we're now checking if our player has changed blocks. I'm just going to redo this live. Makes very little difference time-wise. So reload the plugin. As you can see, I went in and checked and it didn't work and I was very confused. If I look around, it's fine, but if I move, you move to a scene, teleport cancelled. However, if I just sit still, there we go, perfect. So that has all worked. Hopefully you found this video informative. There's obviously loads more you could do. You could prevent players being teleported into water, into lava, create a GUI, charge players money, play sounds, but I mean, we're here for 20 minutes and we got a lot done. I'm more than happy to come back and show you how to create a confirmation GUI, or show you how to implement Vault to take away money, to show you how to create a command cooldown. But for now, I think that's probably enough. So thanks very much for watching. Hopefully this was informative, and I'll see you in the next video.